I mean, the internet is just going crazy. I mean, the internet is buzzing uh, because Bryce Mitchell said the former German leader, whose name I need not mention, you know who he is, was a good guy in shameful rant. He says, I honestly think he was a good guy based on my own research, not my public education. And by now you've heard this story, so let's just get into it. I mean, it's a crazy thought to have. It's a wild statement to make. People are up in arms. Dana White even responding, which is rare, but uh, paused when he said, would he, you know, do something to Bryce Mitchell, like, maybe a suspension or something like that. But Dana White is on record, no matter what anyone says about their country, religion, all that, that they all have the right to free speech, and he holds firm on that, but totally disagreeing, obviously, with what Bryce Mitchell had to say again on his very first podcast. So that's kind of the point too that I want to make, is that it's his first podcast. He's trying to say some outlandish stuff to get noticed, and boy, did he accomplish that goal. Because in the world we live in right now, good news is good news. Bad news is also good news because it's all from a publicity standpoint. Even if it's something negative or bad or wrong, if people are talking about you and your podcast, what are people looking up right now? They're looking up Bryce Mitchell's podcast. So my man came out of the gate swinging. I don't agree with what he said, but I know that people are going to watch his podcast now. And so at the end of the day, he wins, uh, we lose, and that's all there is to it, because we're forced to talk about it. It's a big story, and Bryce Mitchell got exactly what he wanted, and it doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. He got what he wanted, and that's the bottom line. So go ahead, Bryce Mitchell. I guess do what you got to do to get the views that you want to get. But I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it really is crazy.
Whoa!
I mean, you could make wild statements like that and honestly believe it. Now, I understand he did his own research, he did all those things, but you have to look, even if you're slanted that way big time, totally over there, totally think he was a good guy, which is hard to even understand or believe, you still got to look at the final result of what he did to the human race.
Ooh-wee.
I mean, he just took people out, man. He took people out.
Ooh-wee.
And I don't know how you go down as a good guy. And no matter what you're teaching yourself, denouncing is public education, right? But see, the thing with public education is you have the right, as a youngster, when you're being taught, to debate. But a lot of times when we're youngsters in that setting, we don't want to debate. We don't really necessarily care when we're young about history and all those things. It's like as we get older, especially when you have kids, you start to look at things a little differently. You start to really peek into things, and your interest peaks at a later age when it comes to historical events, because you kind of want to know how you got here. Like for me, it was when my grandfather passed away, and he had the Purple Heart, and then I got it, and I found out that he was you know, involved in all that on the side of America, obviously, and took shrapnel in the heart and got the Purple Heart, and it was given down to me. So I naturally am like, I want to research more about this and know more. Right? As you get older, these things tend to happen. When you're a youngster, some care, but we don't care enough a lot of times, most of us, myself included, to want to publicly debate, because that means we actually, we have to really research and learn and care about it. And sometimes when you're young, you just don't care about history yet. So, when he says, I think he was a good guy, and this is based on my own research, not my public education. Well, public education is just that, it's public. And you have the right to debate. And I think in terms of public education, we should all be encouraging debate because if you're debating, you're learning. Even if you're wrong, you're going to be wrong when you're young, too. You're going to be, as we see, you're wrong when you get older. But by just debating and opening up the floor for debate and encouraging debate means that someone has to research something and they're learning something. So it's hard to denounce public education when really public education is what you make of it. You can go into school every day and I don't care, I don't want to be here. Or you can go in and say, you know what, I'm here. There's money that's being uh, given to me to be here to pay for the bus drivers, teachers, and cooks and principals and you know county personnel and state personnel and federal government personnel. And since I'm getting that money and I'm getting here, I'm also being fed while I'm here. I might as well learn something. I might as well debate and ask questions. And I think sometimes in public education, we're kind of scared to get into topics, but we got to for the sake of the kids so that they can debate and don't even be slanted about it. That's hard for me if I'm not a history teacher, but if I was, that might be hard for me. But as a teacher, you got to kind of step back and let them debate and step in as the middleman and encourage it and say, well, think about this. And maybe you think about that and okay, go 3 to 5 minutes later, help control the discussion by calling on people. What do you think? What do you think? And encouraging debate. So if you're denouncing public education, then it is what you made it. Maybe you didn't debate when you were that age. You might have learned more. I encourage you, especially youngsters, debate with your teachers, not to try to upstage them. I'm saying ask questions, debate with your fellow classmates. Well, what do you think? Well, this is what I think. Oh, no, I don't agree with that. Well, let's talk about it. That's what we need. Public education is what you make of it. And obviously, Bryce Mitchell didn't make much of it based on those comments.